What's up, guys? We are back with a brand new Turtles review, taking a look at the latest from NECA Toys and the cartoon line. And this one was a set that, well, I knew it was coming, but I didn't think I was going to get it today because it just went up online a couple days ago, and I had this feeling that it was going to show up in store immediately after I bought it. And for reasons entirely unrelated to Black Friday, I went into Target and it was just sitting there on the shelf in an absolute mess of toys at about noon. So of course, here we are now, and we are taking a look at the latest Triceraton 2-pack. We have got Captain ZARAX and Zork. So I am very much been looking forward to these because I love Triceraton stuff. So we've got them here in the larger format style NECA Toon box. You've got the yellow and the green motif, figures in the big window. You've got cartoon style shots of each figure in their respective corner, and then product shots for each figure on their respective side as well. The back of the box has a little bit of a bio for Turtles in general, and then some cross-sell and a larger shot of both figures. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our cartoon ZARAX and Zork figures. Honestly, two that I didn't really expect we were going to get, just based on the fact that they are, I mean, they're pretty obscure. They are easily the most obscure characters we've gotten in this entire line. They do appear, of course, in the same episode that the normal Triceraton appears in, but I don't think most people think of yellow and green Triceratons. I think most people think of orange ones, and I don't think people truly remember these guys all that well because they didn't sell out nearly as fast, and I just don't think they're that memorable. I do, however, have a lot of interest in these figures just because I like Triceraton stuff. So I'm very, very happy that we do have these sooner rather than later. They are very familiar territory as far as articulation, parts for use, but they are also a little bit different as well. So we're going to move Zork aside for a second. We'll bring him back in just a minute, and we'll talk about articulation at a base level for both of them because they are mostly the same, but they are a little bit different. So they've got heads that can look up a little bit, and then you can look down. You can swivel side to side, and then you've got an articulated jaw. This is one area where they differ quite a bit in terms of the overall range. So the ZARAX has a really wide ranging mouth. His, however, can go super far up to the point where once it's in there, you might actually have to pry it back out. Like I can't actually get it with my fingers. I need an edge basically to get it to pop out. It's not a negative, it's just that thing. The arms go out at the shoulders. They rotate, but they only go so far because he has armor that reaches over the actual shoulder itself. You've got your bicep swivel. We've, of course, got double jointed elbows. And then you've got your hinges and rotation at the wrist. Normal stuff for the line. You've got your diaphragm cut. So he goes backwards a little bit, forward, side to side, and then he uses that for rotation. We've got our tail back here. So it rotates on a ball peg, side to side, up and down, all that good stuff. Same thing we saw with the normal Triceraton and Leatherhead because it's Leatherhead's tail. Then you've got legs that go out. It's that new barbell type of joint that they've been using lately. They kick forward about that far. They kick backwards a little bit. You can rotate there as well. We've also got our double jointed knees, and you've got your rocker, and you've got hinges down at those ankles. Really, really good ankles. There is nothing getting in the way when it comes to those. So they move around very, very similarly to the regular Triceraton, but again with some little differences at the shoulders, and then most notably the head and then the mouth. And then Zork is a little bit different, not much, but worth noting. So we'll move that one aside and pull our green guy out here. So his head is a little bit different. They're not using the same head sculpt, so they have different range when it comes to the mouth. His mouth does not open nearly as far as a ZARAX does. So it goes about that far. It's not as far, but it's enough. It's certainly enough to add a little character to him. And then his arms go out just a little bit further, but they are able to rotate all the way around because he doesn't have armor that fully encloses the shoulder. Otherwise, they're exactly the same through and through. Same elbows, wrists, waist, torso, knees, the whole deal. The rest of them is exactly the same when it comes to articulation. There's just a couple little areas where they differ slightly. But overall, I think they move pretty well. Again, being very familiar with the Triceraton, you know exactly what you're getting into. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, this is generally where, well, all of my interest lies, just because I know how the figures are going to move pretty much without even messing with them. We know how these work at this point. It's all about recreating the look in plastic, and I think this is another area, another set of figures where NECA has done a really good job. Again, we've already got experience with the Triceraton, so you know what's going on there. Mostly the same figure, which is fine. There are still a few key things that maybe aren't necessarily the best for these figures, like the spikes on the tail, or the pants wrinkles on the legs, since these are reusing leatherhead legs, things like that. But it's ultimately not a big deal. It really comes down to these new head sculpts, the new bits of armor that we've got, and then the colors. I think that most folks think of Triceratons as orange. That is historically, that sounds stupid, historically the way they look, they're orange. But there are these outlier figures that are very different, and these guys are going to look fantastic with a handful of Triceratons, if of course you have them. So as far as our figures go, I mean, the most part, they are the same as the Triceraton with some notable differences. So you've got things like the armor piece. So you've got ZARAX's more regal type of look with the big shoulder pauldrons, and then you've got this sort of ribbon that runs across the chest piece here. Of course, we've got our cel-shaded look. They've got these new belt pieces. He's got a little bit of a sash down here, and then they've got new feet as well. So these are different. They both share the same feet, but they are different. They're not the same as the Triceraton, so they're just a different style, really. But it really comes down to the coloring and the shading on them. So you've got that kind of line that runs down the middle of them to give the back half being shaded and the front half being in the light. And I think it looks great. Even for a yellow figure, I think it's pretty obvious what they're going for here. So you've got a much brighter figure. He looks almost like Simpsons yellow on the front. And then he's a slight orangey color on the backside. Not super orange, not as orange as my background, obviously, but it's orange enough. And then, of course, it's all accentuated with the line work, all of the little spots that have those dark circles around them. But truly, it's the head on these figures that really caps things off, no pun intended, I suppose. And I think ZARAX looks pretty fantastic. They look very similar, but they are not the same head sculpt. You can tell once you've got them next to each other. So he's got more of the spotting on him. The frill on the top of the head is a different shape, a different color, obviously, because he's got the brown edges, and then he's got these horns with the caps on them. So you've got kind of those little nubs on the end rather than actual points, and you've got the big horn on the front. He does, of course, have a different expression than Zork, so he's a little bit more angry. He's got a bit more of a furrowed brow, and just a lot more of that line work up there. Now, in comparison, Zork might be a little less impressive in some ways, just in terms of the character type. So he is supposed to be a captain, so he's got maybe a little bit more decorated style armor, whereas Zork looks a little bit more normal, but not a normal infantryman. So he has new pieces as well. So you've got the new chest piece here with the pauldrons as well. They're just not as detailed as ZARAX. He's got the straps that run down the back, and he's more muted colors. So he's not the gray, he's got the browns and the yellows. But the rest of the figure, for the most part, is very much the same thing as ZARAX. He has the new feet. He does have different bracers, though. So you've got regular bracers rather than these sort of studded ones. The Triceraton Infantryman has those as well, the same ones that ZARAX has. But again, it mostly just comes down to the coloring, the overall paint applications, the cel-shaded nature of it, the shading aspect of it with bisecting them down the middle, and then just the head sculpt. So he's got a much more, I guess, imposing look in some ways, because he has the larger frill on the head without that line work on it, and then he's got the actual horns exposed rather than the snubs on the end. So he looks like he might be a little bit more dangerous. And in the show, he does a lot of ramming. So he like rams into a bus, I think is what it is, and he spears it with his horns. Whereas ZARAX uses melee weapons by comparison, which we'll talk about here shortly. But I think overall, I mean, taken both at face value, I think they absolutely nailed them, using existing parts, giving them some new stuff when it comes to using these overlays that they have. So we've seen that with Rocksteady, with Leatherhead, with the Triceraton Infantryman, and now with these two guys, if not a couple more already. I think they did a really solid job here. They look fantastic. Colors are great. I've got zero issues with paint or anything like that. They very much look like they jumped right out of the show. Again, maybe without talking too much about the odd tail or the wrinkles on the legs, because of course those are originally pants pieces, and that tail was originally video games, not Slash, but Leatherhead. Things are very much show accurate for the most part, and I think they did a really solid job here. They're going to look, again, fantastic with a handful of Triceratons next to them. Now, as far as accessories goes, this is a bit of a retread area for the most part, but we do get one new item when it comes to these figures. So we've got ZARAX's kind of melee blades that come out of his bracers. So in the show, these blades actually pop out of the bracers when he's fighting, I think when he fights all of the turtles, but specifically I remember him chopping Leonardo's sword in half. And you've got swappable parts, so you actually have to pop the hand off and you can take the bracers off, and they are actually keyed into the wrist. So there are little nubs on the inside that will tell you which one goes on which arm. So just pop the bracer off. It comes off no problem. They're not really stuck on there or anything. And then you pop these on. They do have pretty good coloration to them, so they've got more of that cel-shaded look. I do kind of wish they were a little bit longer. I feel like they should be a little bit longer, but otherwise I think they're pretty good. And I'm very happy giving him something that isn't a gun because he actually used, I want to say he used a pistol in the show, and we don't get that, although he does use this big guy as well. And we saw this with the Triceraton infantry. So this is the actual Triceraton cannon, which is the exact same thing that we had with the other pack. So at this point, I've got a handful of these floating around. Sculpt is really good, though, and he can hold it just fine, single-handed or two-handed, and you've got that shot of orange in the barrel there, which I do really like. They do also include the same guns that the Triceraton came with last time, so we've got the like the Bebop and Rocksteady guns that you can use for them. So you've got 3 total guns for these guys, but all of these, if you've got the Triceraton pack, you've already got them. I do wish that they could have made the pistol that these guys use just to change it up a little bit, but you can probably fudge that in from like a Foot Soldier or something like that, one of those packs. So you've got 3 guns, you've got the blades there, and then we've also got extra hands. So you've got we've got fists on ZARAX now. Well, they're not fists, they are gripping hands, but you have to use them as fists. And then we've got a set of kind of style pose hands. So you've got a set with a left hand that's just open palm. You've got a right hand with a trigger finger here, which is what Zork is using. And then you've got an open palm right hand to just better grip things or use a style pose hand. Each figure comes with the same thing. So you get a set for each. So you've got a set of gripping hands for both, and then the 3 style pose hands depending on how you want to use them. So a total of 10 hands, 5 for each figure, 3 guns, and the 2 blades. The only thing I really wish we had was the pistol, but I'm not too beat up about it. And then as far as some size comparisons real quick, we've got our Captain ZARAX here in the middle with one of the regular Triceratons to give you an idea of how they stack up, which is basically the same height, and just to give you an idea of how different they actually are. And then we've got one of our Toon Turtles. So we've got Leo here, who is woefully out of his league here, just like in the cartoon, because they don't actually lose to the Turtles. They're just stupid and they run away. So you've got your very much out of his league Leonardo there. Let's move him aside and do another NECA figure. So here is Bebop, of course, cartoon Bebop, to give you an idea of what he looks like. And he is not standing very well right now, but he is still very much a beefy figure, but he's still a little bit shorter than our Triceratons here. Now, as far as some other lines, some more normal 6-inch stuff, let's move these aside. Here they are, or here he is, rather, with a Marvel Legend. And then how about, of course, the Beskar Mando. So some normal 6-inch size stuff. And then just for the fun of it, here is a vintage Triceraton, just give you an idea of what he looks like. Of course, nothing even remotely in scale. And then, I don't know, why not? Let's just throw him in there because he is the topic of the day right now as of this recording. There is our Baby Yoda for some other more unnecessary scaling. So this guy is really big. Both of them are very large. There is really no height difference between ZARAX or Zork. So you've got some beefy new figures to throw alongside a number of other beefy figures in the Toon Turtle line. So overall, this is another solid set, another winner, I'd say. If you're like me and you like Triceraton stuff, even though these guys are obscure and definitely maybe, you know, towards the bottom tier type of characters for the show and for this line, I think you're going to be happy because they're every bit as good as the Triceraton. They offer some new stuff from that figure when it comes to the moving jaws, the new armor pieces, the new weapons for ZARAX, and just the different colors for a Triceraton. They're going to pop on your shelf compared to any other figures in the line, specifically ZARAX. ZARAX because he's yellow, bright yellow figure, but next to other Triceratons, they're very much going to stand out, and they're going to look even more different than they actually are. They've got good size, they move pretty well, and they just look good. NECA has once again shown that they absolutely know how to nail the cartoon look in figure form, and I think these two are another solid example of that. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Cartoon ZARAX and ZORK 2-pack. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.